Good afternoon, everyone. I think you all are coming in to join us right now into this event. So we're going to give you a minute as everyone flows in out of the waiting room into our hour-long discussion this Tuesday. We're really excited to have you. All right, I think everyone's in and more are coming in. As I mentioned, we're really excited to convene this discussion on behalf of Virginia Works, the Virginia Chamber Foundation, and the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, all around AI and how it's impacting you as employers. So today we have a number of topics we're going to cover. First, we're going to do a few rounds of introductions of some of our guest speakers and some of what we hope to achieve out of the time together today. My name is Nicole Overly. I'm the Commissioner of Virginia Works, the Commonwealth's Workforce Development Agency, and very excited to be here today for this session. Just as a couple housekeeping notes, first and foremost, this meeting is being recorded, and you will get a copy of the recording afterwards. If you want to go ahead to the next slide. I'm going to talk for a little bit about some of what's coming in terms of the efforts Virginia is making to really upskill and support our workforce, our talent, in all aspects of AI readiness. But first and foremost, what we really need to do in order to successfully activate the AI potential of the Commonwealth is to understand how you all as employers are thinking about how AI is changing your business models and your talent and skill needs. And so that's really what today's session is all about. I think we really hope that it is highly interactive. You should have access to the chat at every point in time in today's discussion. And as we've done throughout the webinars that we have hosted in the past with our partners, we've had pretty active webinar chats. So please don't hesitate at any point in time. If you have questions, comments for any of our speakers that you would like to dive a little deeper into, please put those in the chat. We also have a set of us here from Virginia Works and our partners ready to answer questions via the chat as we go too. So we're just really excited to engage with you. A little later on in our agenda today, we also have a couple of tools that we're going to be using to gain some feedback from you to help drive the AI strategy around upskilling for our Commonwealth. And so please make sure that you stay with us and stay active until that point, because we want to really make sure that we get the feedback from you that you will see brought forward in our strategy going forward in very short order as we unveil some upskilling related initiatives on AI. All right, let's go forward to the next slide. So really quickly, I'm just going to talk through our agenda today. So first of all, we have two guest speakers with us who are going to touch on really two topics, one being an exploration of how AI is impacting your business and your talent needs. The second is some of the opportunities to upskill that some private sector partners of ours like Google are taking on to help upskill Virginia's talent to support your needs as employers. And so as a set of partners really across the Commonwealth and bringing in some national expertise as well, we really hope to explore some of these topics today in a way that's relevant to you, that gives you a sense of some of the things that we're thinking about, and that allows you to give some feedback to us on what would be most beneficial to you. So we'll have, after those two guest speakers, we'll have some open discussion, and we are going to use a tool called Mentimeter to gather some feedback as mentioned from you. And then we will close out with a few next steps, some of the things to expect going forward, and how we'd like for you to continue to engage with us as a team on these topics. So just as mentioned, three organizations have come together for today's event. And so if you don't know us, we've been running a series of these webinars really every other month, typically on Tuesdays around noon. So thank you for joining us during your lunch hour. First and foremost, I had mentioned that I am here representing Virginia Works, the new state workforce development agency for the Commonwealth. We also have represented with us, and a key partner in this webinar and all of our webinars is the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, which is the State Economic Development Authority for Virginia. And then last but certainly not least, the Virginia Chamber Foundation. If you're not familiar with the Chamber's work, they're a business advocacy organization in Virginia, the state business advocacy organization for Virginia, and are very tied in with us on these AI efforts. And you're actually going to hear from some of those partners in a minute who are working on some AI-related studies and analyses to help you with your work. All right. So just also to level set, our joint webinars that we've been running as really a series cover a couple of different, well, really many different topics, all in the realm and world of talent development. And if you have thoughts, one of the things that we always do when we end these webinars is we ask you for your thoughts on other topics that would be helpful to you. I'll touch on a few. We've had sessions on registered apprenticeship, on employer incentives and tax credits for hiring untapped talent. We have some in the pike on veterans, on internships and work-based learning opportunities, and a number of other topics coming. Please let us know what would be most helpful to you. We really try to think in this vein of your talent life cycle, how you develop, hire, and retain your talent, and some of the topics that might be of most importance to you all along that life cycle. All right, so the last point, or the last set of points I want to make as we transition into our first guest speaker on the specific topic of AI is the unique impact, I think, that AI is having on every organization. And I think what we're really going to talk about today are the first two of these three sets of impacts. But I think, and I know you all are living this every day, I think it's worth noting that the impacts to your business model are then impacting the skills and talent that you need, which then have an impact on how you develop, hire, and retain talent as well. And AI is really impacting all three of those. We certainly have had and have heard a lot of the discussion topics on how AI is changing the actual tools that are used in the hiring and retention of talent. But one of the things that we're really interested in today is how is it actually impacting the skills and talent you need? In other words, how are you expecting your employees or your potential employees to be capable of using AI at work? And that really comes from the exploration of your business models as organizations. And so the first two here are really our focus today, but certainly interested in your perspective on all three. As I said, I think it'll really help us make sure that we're thinking about how we need to upskill and equip Virginians for all three of these. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we move forward through this discussion today. All right. Okay, so last but not least, I, for one, have certainly been doing a lot of reading recently on this topic, and there are a couple articles in particular that piqued my interest, and we thought we'd pull out a couple stats from them that might be interesting to you. One of those was a piece published in Fortune magazine a few weeks ago, and the title is actually below down here in a footnote. Business leaders expect their employees to use AI at work but aren't providing them with guidance. That's called the AI training gap, and it's interesting. A couple stats that come from that article focus on the number of employers, a majority, who, like many of you probably, who expect employees to have to be in the process of updating their skills for AI. But the challenge is, in many cases, that as you are also updating your business models for AI at the same time, that upskilling cycle can be a challenge, both for employees and for you as leaders. And so thinking about exactly what that looks like for you, I think, is really the crux of a lot of today's discussion. Understanding where you're at in that process around how you are thinking about employee expectations around AI, how you're thinking about the policies that drive your business use of AI, and what it would really take to fill this gap of employers who think, and right now, according to that article, only 10% say that they're future ready today. What will it take to help you have people in your organizations who are truly future ready? And that is really our interest and our focus. And so just, some of the things that I think we hear and see in the news every day, and I think you're going to hear this from our guest speakers around how AI is changing really all three of the aspects of this AI landscape. There's just, I think, so much that we can learn from you, but I hope also things we can learn we can do to help you as you navigate what exactly this looks like for you. All right, so with that, I think I'm going to pass it to our first guest speaker, which is really going to take us through this topic of how AI is impacting business and talent needs. And I'm excited to pass the mic to Mike Malone, a partner at Economic Leadership, who's actually engaged with the Virginia Chamber right now in helping to think through their AI study that's launched and in process now. And I think this discussion today is really going to help hopefully feed some of that work and give some helpful perspective. And Mike is also hopefully going to be able to share some of the 101 of AI with you. So Mike, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Overley, and Thank you to your team and all the presenting partners for the opportunity to be with you today. As you said, I'm Mike Malone. I'm a partner with an economic development consulting firm called Economic Leadership. We work nationally in more than 30 states right now. We do studies, analysis aimed at helping states and regions and communities and businesses be more economically competitive. It's a real credit to the state leadership, the business leadership in the Commonwealth that you're having these proactive discussions and making sure that impacts from the rollout of AI are mitigated and that Virginia takes advantage of opportunities related to AI, both for workers and for firms across the state. And so credit to you. Not many states are having proactive discussions, and we're excited to be a part of it. I was asked to do a quick AI 101 here at the top of the webinar. I've never done an overview of AI, so it was a great opportunity for me. And Nora, if you can go to the next slide, I'll start with a definition of AI. And other than the acronym AI meaning artificial intelligence, there's really very little agreement on an exact definition of AI. So I went to AI, generative AI, and asked ChatGPT to define AI. And so that's the first definition that you see on the screen there. It's machines performing tasks that typically require human intelligence. That's a pretty simple definition. It's very broad. It matches, kind of AI and when the term was founded almost 70 years ago. But I went a little deeper. I wanted a more refined definition. I really like this one that Google's using about AI being a field of science. And I think that's an important point of emphasis. The term AI refers to a field of science and engineering concerned with building computers and machines that can reason, learn, and act. And then also the second part of the definition that Google uses is also very important, and it goes to the scale of how much data, how quickly data can be analyzed, and the use of data far exceeding what humans can do. And so it was the data elements of that definition that made it really stick with me. There are plenty of other definitions, but I think these certainly cover the waterfront. Next slide, please. So now I'll dive a little bit into an illustration that hits home what some of the building blocks of AI, or the building blocks of AI and how they fit together. I already pointed out in Google's definition that AI refers to a field of science or a field of engineering. And that's really kind of how it's framed here. It's a broad field of intelligent machines that can replace human tasks. And then a lot of times you hear the term AI and ML or AI and machine learning. And machine learning is really just a subset of this field of science that's called artificial intelligence. And so machine learning is how computers analyze and learn from incredibly large sets of data and inputs using algorithms. Algorithms are the framework for detecting patterns and making predictions and recommendations. And so in machine learning, the algorithms are trained to detect patterns based on reviews of large amounts of data. And when we say large amounts of data, it's every bit of data on the internet and beyond. And again, the benefit here is the pace and volume at which machines can analyze the data. You're hearing some talk about deep learning. It's another subset of machine learning that's within this field of science and engineering known as AI. Deep learning uses algorithms or systems that process the data much like a brain processes data. So multi-layered, sees connections in different ways. It's not, kind of straight line analysis. It's very complex and multi-layered. It learns from feedback and it learns and refines the processing of the data as it goes and creates, new ways of thinking about the data in very complex ways. And so deep learning is the type of analysis that's used in generative AI. And generative AI, Gen AI, is really kind of the tools and the resources that allow users to interact with data, to ask through queries and prompts a question or ask the system to develop something new, generate something new. And so the distinction here is generative AI generates new content based upon reviews of vast amounts of data. A lot of times this is referred to as large language models because it takes the analysis of so much data to be able to generate a response or this new content or the deliverable in response to the query or the prompt. And so generative AI tools have launched in the last few years, couple of years, and the adoption and the use of these tools is off the chart. If we can go to the next slide, I'll just show you some examples of some of the more common generative AI tools. Next, thank you. And these are different types of tools. In the top left, GitHub is a tool that's used for coding. It can help coders complete lines of code, analyze lines of code for mistakes or errors, and it really improves the efficiency of coding. Claude and ChatGPT are known as chatbots, where you can, using text, ask questions or request the production of something and you get back text in response. ChatGPT is probably the most common. I saw a statistic that said there were over 100 million users a day that ask ChatGPT questions or ask it to generate responses. And there's over 1 billion queries a day now going through ChatGPT. Gemini is another AI model that can certainly handle text queries and give text responses, but it's also allows audio and video responses and can ingest audio and video information as well. DAL-E is a system that can produce images. So you can ask it to create an entirely new image. And then the last one, it may be a little hard to see there, Notebook LM is a Microsoft product that takes notes, summarizes notes from a larger document, can give you bullet points or a high-level summary. And now there's a feature, it was introduced last year, where you can ask it to produce a podcast based on a summary of a document. And so that's becoming quite popular as well. If we can go to the next slide. But why does this matter? Well, first, it's already prevalent and pervasive in our daily lives. Things like self-driving cars, that's based on AI technology and receiving a high amount of data and making decisions based on that data. Roombas, if you use those, use AI. Siri, Alexa, they all use vast amounts of data to simplify daily tasks. But AI really gives us the benefit of using such vast amounts of data that no human could ever access or digest on their own, and it can be done at incredible speeds. Business process efficiencies are already being realized. Very widely read study issued in 2023 looked at all types of occupations and the tasks that are a part of those occupations and found that on average 15% of all tasks that we do in average professions, 15% of tasks could be performed using AI, Gen AI related tools. And the percentage is much higher in certain occupations and lower in others, but on average it's 15%. Businesses are using the ability of data to sort data, machines to sort data at incredible speeds, to develop new products, conduct research studies much more quickly and much more cost effectively than through human processes alone. And also, the machines can monitor vast amounts of data in real time, so it can detect threats or emergencies as showing up in patterns of the data that might take a human much longer to identify. Use of AI in cybersecurity is one example. Next slide, please. If you open the news or you watch the news, you're seeing articles about AI. It seems like there's always a mention these days. These are just a few recent headlines that I grabbed. Google introduced some new tools and some new resources that they've launched, filmmaking tools, coding tools, and even AI empowered or powered glasses that have a display built in. I mentioned the ability to create a podcast using AI. The top right, that's an interesting one. I met with a recent college graduate recently who told me she had participated in her first AI job interview. And so the hiring manager put in a series of questions, sent that through an AI tool, and a voice-enabled interview occurred. And the interviewees' responses were recorded. And then a summary of those went back to the hiring manager. So that completely changes how job candidates are going to prepare for interviews when they're being interviewed virtually. And I also got a kick out of that it's also changing people's data profiles because they can create images or enhance their images in a different way. But now, while these are useful and while they're interesting, as mentioned before, there are issues or concerns among workers that AI may displace them or make them less valuable in the workplace. And it's also a case where CEOs and business leaders see huge potential. So there's a divergence there among opinions. Next slide, please. There are opinions about the impact on jobs and the impact on industry that are just completely all over the map. If you read one publication, you may see that AI is going to wipe out entire professions or have a very significant impact on certain skill areas. Then you read other publications and they say that the impact of AI actually is going to create more jobs. It may lead to changes in occupations or in the skill mix required for certain jobs, but ultimately we're going to see more benefit as well. You have founders of AI firms with divergent opinions on this as well. And when predictions are all over the map, I usually think that the truth's somewhere in the middle. There is agreement, however, that these tools are rapidly advancing and adoption is rapidly increasing. And so the next 2 to 5 years seems to be the window for firms that want to take advantage of AI, as well as upskilling and reskilling and changes in types of occupations and hiring practices that are going to occur. We're in the window, or we soon will be, where this is going to be felt in a widespread way. Next slide, please. So again, credit to Virginia for having this conversation now. It's pretty universal in agreement that AI will reshape, but not erase jobs. But the real issue in the fact that we're having this conversation and others are having conversations is the unevenness of the impacts. Certain industries will be impacted more than others, certain occupations will be impacted by more than others, and geographies as well. Some of the early studies on the impact of AI and deployment of AI tools on occupations have focused on the exposure of specific jobs to automation. So they've taken a job description or a profile of an occupation and identified which of the tasks associated with the jobs could be automated. This is a map from one study, a widely read study by Princeton professor and NYU faculty that even identified by county which jobs are more likely to, or that have the potential to be automated. They didn't produce the raw data, so it's pretty hard to drill into, but there are some counties in Virginia that are more red than others based on the likelihood that jobs could be automated. Now, the authors were really careful to point out that while jobs could be automated, or there are tasks in certain jobs that could be automated, it does not mean that those jobs will be lost. Those workers' time could be put toward different tasks that could be, higher order or more productive tasks. It also, they make, no judgment on whether employers are going to automate as many tasks. It's really just about what's in a job description and the potential for automation. So it is an indication that plenty of industries will undergo transformation in the future. These kind of skills that are human skills certainly are going to be valuable, and a way to think about it is that AI enhances and won't replace these skills, but AI is a tool to enhance these skills. Next slide, please. Some other things to think about as it relates to the deployment of AI, and this was mentioned right at the top, with only 35% of firms having policies related to AI, or it's some of these things. It's because AI relies on a great deal of data. If there are biases or incomplete information in the data, it's going to yield biased or incomplete outputs. Some AI tools, because of the multi-layered analysis of data, sometimes they produce inaccuracies. So it's important to review the data as well. There AI tools can be used by malicious actors to create images or audio or outputs that appear real, but that could be used for nefarious purposes. And then organizations, and especially academic institutions, are certainly wrestling with how generative AI tools can and should be used. And there are open questions about how work that is done using AI should be attributed. So I think I should disclose. I built the outline for my presentation. I wrote my own notes for the presentation, but I did ask ChatGPT to outline what should be in a AI 101 presentation. And I was relieved that my outline ultimately roughly matched what ChatGPT suggested as well. But I did refer to it as a validation of what I'd put together. Next slide, please. Almost done. Key takeaways. We know AI is a powerful tool, but it's not magic. It's becoming more pervasive by the day. I mentioned already the job and industry impacts. There's general agreement that those will be felt in the next 2 to 5 years. How we manage the changes within companies and across the economy are critical to ensuring the changes won't disrupt lives and the economy unnecessarily. And really, for individuals, training and practice with AI is the best first step, because learning how to use AI as an enhancement or tool to be more productive is absolutely essential. And then the last slide of my presentation is a summary of the work that our firm's been engaged to do. The Virginia State Chamber and the Chamber Foundation, with funding from Go Virginia, have engaged us to do an AI landscape assessment. So look at the types of positions that could be impacted by region within the state, the types of industries across the state, look at best practices from around the country, and bring those and the analysis of the data to really inform and make some recommendations that can be incorporated in the Blueprint Virginia document that'll go to the next governor in December. And so we're really excited to be a part of that. As a part of the process, we're doing a lot of industry interviews. We're going to have a survey, and even at the end of this meeting today, we hope to get some feedback from you on use of AI and AI in hiring, AI practices. So it's a lot of information gathering right now, recommendations to come, and again, those will be incorporated in the Blueprint Virginia recommendations later this year. So thank you for the opportunity to present, and I'll be back with you during the feedback session.
Thank you so much, Mike. I hope that was helpful. I think it's always helpful for conversations like this to just do the little bit of level setting that you were able to do for us on the 101, just because I know there's so much discussion on this topic, and all of us see it from a little bit of a different perspective. So please put your questions in the chat, if you don't mind, as we move into the next segment, so that we can start to answer those and/or pick them up for the rest of the discussion. So go ahead and do that. And if we can move forward to the next slide, I'm excited to introduce our second guest speaker, who's going to talk a little bit about Grow with Google and some of the upskilling initiatives that Google has launched. And I'm going to pass the mic, I think, to Henry Deng. Henry, if you're on, who's the Employer Partnerships Lead at Grow with Google, to talk a little bit about that.
All right. Thanks, Nicole, and thanks, Mike, for really setting a nice foundation for this group. Hey, everybody, my name is Henry Deng, and I lead employer partnerships here on Grow with Google. And so if we go to the next slide, I'll start out by just talking about what Grow with Google is and who we are and our mission, and then talk a little bit about some of the resources as well as frameworks around AI skilling, kind of building on what Mike was talking about there, that importance of building some of these skills in these areas. So if we can move on to maybe the next slide. For those of you who aren't familiar with Grow with Google, this is really our company's billion-dollar initiative to making sure that the opportunities created by technology are available to everyone. And so this initiative started a number of years ago in 2017, really even before this big push into AI, with the recognition that while technology can really help to serve as an equalizer, it can also exacerbate different divides in terms of economic opportunity, especially. And so our team is really focused on ways that we can make these opportunities accessible to everyone and to all. And so if we go to the next slide, the flagship products that we've really started with are our Google Career Certificates. So these are programs that are about 3 to 6 months, all online, flexible, that we've built with the help of experts here at Google in high demand areas like data analytics, digital marketing, project management, et cetera. It actually started with a recognition at Google of, as we were thinking about talent in-house, how do we really make that more universally accessible? And some of the things we did was realize, hey, actually for jobs like IT support, maybe we can eliminate the degree requirement, which we did. We created this certificate that's 3 to 6 months. That's really industry recognized and credible, so that people can develop the skills and gain the credentials to then get jobs within these areas. And so that was really where we started from, was building these career certificates that anybody can take regardless of their educational background or their work experience, and then land jobs in these areas. And then where we have headed to, especially over the last 12 months or so, is with this recognition of the great power of AI, but then also, like I mentioned, that ability to potentially exacerbate some gaps there. We really focused on creating content to help train people in foundational AI skills as well as prompting skills. And so we released our AI Essentials course early last year, and then our Prompting Essentials course this year. These are all under our Essentials brand, are about 5 to 7 hours, so really accessible for someone to get some of the basics, and then to get hands-on practice, and then the assessments. And then all of these programs come with that certificate and that credential at the end to really validate your learning, and then to communicate to employers that somebody has gotten these skills. And so we're really excited about these. And today I'll share a little bit more about what goes into our prompting course specifically, and then share some of those resources so you all can get access to that. If we go to the next slide, my job is to work with employers, especially enterprise employers across the US, on a couple of different on a few different areas. First off, we work with employers on upskilling. So actually, a lot of these companies are offering our certificates to their own employees to train them in these areas, and then also to reskill employees, especially if they might be impacted by automation and so forth, really getting ahead of that. Second is we provide hiring support for a lot of these employers. And so graduates of our programs, we have over 400,000 graduates in the US. Whenever they finish a certificate, we have a dedicated job board as well as staffing resources to help them land jobs in these companies and others, so that we really drive outcomes out of the programs. And then the last thing is that a number of these employers are using our AI content to upskill their workforces as they deploy the generative AI tools. And I'll kind of walk through what goes in there. So that's a little bit about our org and our role, and then we'll get into the AI piece if we can move to the next slide. Last thing is in terms of some of the outcomes here, over 1 million learners have graduated from our Google Career Certificates across the world, over 400,000 in the US, and tens of thousands within Virginia. And then over 70% of certificates report a positive career outcome in form of a new job, promotion, or raise within 6 months of completion. And so really proud of that statistic, and something that we're working on every day. All right, next section, the opportunity with AI. So a couple of grounding stats here. First off, there's a lot going on here, different colors here, but I think the key takeaway builds on something that Nicole was saying around just the overall adoption of generative AI has been slower than expected. It's certainly fast growing, but especially at work, we're seeing usage lag behind usage outside of work. And then a big reason why we believe this is true, if we go to the next slide, is really around prompting. And so one of the big things that we're seeing is that a reason why people maybe aren't necessarily sticking with Gen AI is the output quality that they're getting. And we really think this has to do with the inputs. Some of the research that we've seen here at Google is that on average, the number of prompts that somebody puts into one of these tools is about 9 words. And so in a lot of ways, people are using Gen AI tools like they are with historical Google search. But what we see is that the best prompts are often longer, containing 21 words or more. A lot of the great prompts that we see can be dozens of words long, hundreds of words long. I've even seen a prompt that's 4,000 words long from one of my colleagues. And I'll walk through kind of the framework for what a good prompt looks like here as a teaser for some of our courses. But this is, we think a big reason why that adoption hasn't been there is around the inputs and specifically around kind of the lack of skill building within prompting as a skill, because the tools are quite accessible. You go in and you can immediately get started, but there is, I think, some training that's necessary in order to get the best outputs here. All right, next slide. So that's why we built our Prompting Essentials course. So I mentioned we have 2 different courses, the Google AI Essentials course, which is more around what is AI, how do you use it responsibly, and then gets into some hands-on exercises. And then this was the follow-on course, the Prompting Essentials course that we released in the fall. Has 4 modules over 5 to 10 hours or so. First off, it introduces a framework for how to write good prompts, and I'll actually walk through that here in a little bit. Second module is then how do you apply the framework and actually practice it on some real-life examples like planning a trip. Third module is then how you might use that at work, whether it's for emails, for data analysis, or for presentation building. And the last module is around how to use AI as a creative or expert partner, and then gets into some more advanced prompting exercises where you have a chain of prompts and some of the different concepts there. And the content is asynchronous over video. We feature a number of experts here in-house, including some of our Google DeepMind experts who really helped build some of the initial AI tools. There's assessments to test understanding, as well as a lot of hands-on activities. And so that's the course, and then I'll be pulling from some of those concepts here in a second so that we can kind of go through it together. And then I'll walk through some of the courses or some of the costs here later on, Roberta. I see that question pop up. So in terms of the core framework that our course relies on, it's really this. It's task, context, references, evaluate, and iterate. The acronym doesn't spell out something that's really easy to remember. So we have this heuristic of thoughtfully create really excellent inputs. But at a high level, the task part, that's the part that people often start with and then end with. That's what you're asking ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot, whatever you're using, to do. And there's kind of that key piece of, draft me a travel plan for wherever you're going. That might be the task, but there's actually a couple additional components in there of the persona as well as the format that are important. The persona being, okay, if you're asking the tool to do something, what persona do you want them to adopt? For example, if it's planning a trip, you might ask the tool to, hey, act like you're a travel agent, and share me something that a travel agent might be able to produce. And then the format, which is around, okay, what type of format do you want it to output? Do you want a detailed itinerary? Do you want a short one-pager? What do you want that to look like? So there's that level of specificity. Context is really important in terms of what details does the generative AI tool need to understand in order to provide really solid outputs. Context in a trip planning example might be, I've never been to call it Italy before, and this is my first time, or like this is my 5th time in Italy, and these are the things that I like to do typically on a trip. So some of that context that are really important to shape and mold the outputs. Third and last piece of a really good prompt are the references and reference materials. This can be files, it can be audio, video, different modes that are really helpful for understanding. And so reference material for planning a trip might be, ooh, these are some recommendations that my friend sent, or this is a different trip that I took that I really liked, or like I saw Stanley Tucci's documentary on Italy, and that was great. And so those are the kind of 3 components. If we go back a slide, the last really important pieces are evaluate and iterate. So if we have the task, the context, and the references, we'll generate an output, and then it's really important, and we reiterate this in our courses, to evaluate the outputs for accuracy. Is it what you're looking for? And then to iterate. A lot of people miss this, is to continue asking questions, refine the outputs, really go back and forth with the tool. And so that's kind of the core framework, and we practice that a lot in the course itself. And then if we go to the next slide, I go through an example here that we recently did. I worked with our communications team on a prompting workshop. The bad prompt here on the left, I won't say bad, it's a starter prompt. You can see how kind of short it is. It's, Grow with Google is working on a partnership with the University of Michigan to offer our certificates through the university. A starter prompt might be, hey, can you draft a press release announcing this new partnership? Great. And then the output would probably be something relatively generic and not as helpful as it could be. On the right side is an example where we apply the framework, where we have the task draft that press release. We ask it for a persona. Hey, assume the persona if you're a communications manager at Grow with Google. We actually provide the format that you should be getting out, like, hey, a standard press release with some of these components like the headline, the date line, and so forth. Some of the context material, again, that is what details are really important, which is in this case, students can enroll in the course, they'll count for credits, and then different companies within Michigan have committed to considering the grads for jobs. So that's really important to include in the press release. And then the reference piece that we included was 2 press releases that worked in the past, one where we announced a partnership with the University of Hawaii and one with the Tennessee Board of Regents. We don't have time today to go through the live exercise to show the prompt, but in terms of specificity, the prompt on the right there got a lot closer to kind of a really good version 1 that our communications team could then iterate off of, which was really great. Okay, so that's a little bit of the framework as well as kind of an example, and then I'll wrap up here if we go to the last couple of slides. This is some of the results that we're seeing for people coming out of AI courses, again, in about 5 to 10 hours to complete them. Over 80% who have completed have said that they expect to save 2+ hours per week using tools in terms of in life or at work, and then a quarter expect to save over 5 hours per week. And so time that can be spent on higher order tasks or on more strategic opportunities. And so lastly, if we go to the final slide, we do work with organizations and businesses to provide free enterprise licenses as part of our consortium. If you want to learn more about the courses themselves, grow.google/AI to learn more about AI essentials and prompting essentials. Anybody can go and sign up for courses. They're $49 a month. And generally for the AI courses, it's pretty easy to get through them within a month. Otherwise, if it's part of an enterprise or organization, we can work to get licenses and scholarships, and feel free to send an email to gwg-employers@google.com. My team and I will get those and respond accordingly, and make sure that we get those out. And so examples of organizations we partner with in Virginia: we partner with the Better Business Bureau and some of their local chapters to get licenses and access out there. We partner with other larger employers like Leidos, Booz Allen Hamilton, and so forth. And so would love to work with you all on making sure that these are available. And then just seeing the question in the chat. In terms of privacy and data responsibility, that's absolutely something we cover in the Google AI Essentials course. What is AI? What's machine learning? And then how do you think about some of the privacy? How do you think about like what goes into training data and what doesn't go into training data? And so that's all in that Google AI Essentials course. All right, thank you all.
Thank you so much, Henry. That was amazing, and what a great resource. And I agreed, it flowed from some of the key themes that I'd hit. So thank you for that as well. We're at a point, I'm really excited about this. It's part of our project, and that is to gain insight and perspectives from employers and organizations throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so what we want to use now, we're going to use a tool called Mentimeter. I know the state chamber has been using this tool to collect input at some of the Blueprint tour stops as well. The instructions are on the screen, but there are two ways you can access and access the questions that we're going to ask you. You can scan the QR code, or you can go to the website that's on the screen and then enter the code 1920 8288. And so we'll take another 30 seconds or so to allow you time to access the survey tool, and then we'll jump into the questions.
You dropped that in the chat. Hi, everyone. I'm with Virginia Works. I'm Nora. I'm sharing my screen. I'm going to ensure that this is dropped in the chat, and I'm going to throw it back up in just a second. I'm going to stop sharing, and we're going to switch over to Mentimeter. So one moment, please. That's menti.com, and we have that code number going into the chat, 1920 82 88. So one moment. Bear with.
Henry, while that's getting set up, I see another question in the chat. Does Google have a list of course offerings? You might answer that real quick.
Thanks. Just dropped it in the chat so that people
Great.
have the link.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Nora, are we ready to go with the questions? Great. Okay. Using Mentimeter, we're going to ask you, I believe it's 6 questions. And in this one, we're encouraging one-word answers. And I don't know if one word includes hyphenated words or not, but we really want to get your understanding of AI in a single word. What do you think of AI? What's your perception of AI? And what's your thoughts on AI? Give you a minute or two to respond. Well, quick answers. Automation's coming through loudly and clearly. I see scary mentioned as well. Validation, that was certainly how I used it as a tool, and I've noticed that mentioned in the chat as well, that others do that. Tool is a important word. It's a tool. It's not the thing. It's a resource that we can use to be more productive. A lot of positive words here, so that's encouraging. And maybe we self-selected in. The participants in a webcast are going to have some more positive thoughts. But I do see some terms that show some anxiousness, intimidating, scary, those kind of things. Okay, that's really helpful. Next question. What future uses of AI are you considering? And this is kind of a multiple choice. I believe you can check all that apply. Yes, you can check all that apply. So are you or is your firm actively using AI to boost productivity and innovation? Are you exploring AI but still evaluating best uses? Are you interested but unsure, or not interested at all? Okay, it's very mixed. That's interesting. Um, I, in getting ready for this, I did some scan of literature around how firms are using AI, and it came back that the big companies, 500 million in revenues and above, 78% of those firms are actively using AI for at least one business process. But smaller firms, it's much more mixed. So this is interesting. It's a third, a third, a third. Pretty amazing there to see that. So. Okay, thank you for the responses on that. That's great information. Okay, what has been your experience while implementing AI tools? Has it been seamlessly integrated? You've seen benefits despite some initial concerns. Um, we underestimated the level of human oversight needed for AI implementation. If you can dial in your responses on that, that'd be very helpful. These are, I believe, 10-point scales, Nora. Is that right? Yeah. So we're seeing very mixed bag, kind of right in the middle, although I see some responses at each end of the scale as well. It looks like the one that, kind of the strongest, highest level of response is underestimating the level of human oversight needed for implementation. And that's interesting. That matches some of the literature I've seen. That same study I mentioned, it was a McKinsey report on implementing AI. Some of the largest firms have the projects as centrally led, CEO or CIO led initiatives to deploy the AI tools or the AI systems into processes. And they're not doing it through business units, which I thought was interesting there. And lower, okay, we're seeing lower on the seamless integration. So adoption of technology, that's something that we need to make a point of focus. So, okay, thank you. That next question. Now let's turn to hiring and skills that you're looking for. How does AI change the skills you want in new hires? Are you focused on adaptability and technology skills? Are you prioritizing creativity and problem solving? Is AI proficiency what you're looking for the most, or traditional skills still primarily what you're looking for in the hiring? Interesting. Okay, so creativeness and problem solving are coming through loudly and clearly. And more so than tech skills and AI proficiency, which is interesting. Traditional skills still very important in hiring as well. This is great information. We're also thinking about skills. In getting ready for this, I found a statistic that shows that American workers really embrace occupational change and job change, and 34% of Americans have switched jobs and 17% have switched occupations since 2020. Now, COVID's in there, but that a third of Americans have switched jobs since 2020. And so, creativity and problem solving are certainly going to be critical, and those are skills that are transferable. So this is good to see. Okay, next question, Nora. This one's really about for firms and organizations that have deployed AI tools and AI into their processes, how are you tracking or how are you thinking about return on your investment of AI integration? Are you able to measure it? Do you feel like the measurements are accurate, or are you not measuring it at all? And that seems to be the early sentiment that's coming through here. And that also matches the McKinsey survey that I mentioned. The large firms have some sense of the ROI, but most firms do not. And even still, it's very early information, but this is overwhelming. So interesting to see. Okay, last question, and we're nearly at time, and hope we get some great input here. What role do you see for the Commonwealth in supporting AI adoption, particularly in terms of guidance, upskilling, and training resources? This will be really valuable information, and so this is an open-ended question. We'd love to have your input here, and so please use the tool to provide that. Or is this a check all that applies?
This is a long form answer.
Got it.
And then
Okay, great.
answers that multiple people concur with can be voted on.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't have that.
Just fine.
So role for the Commonwealth in supporting AI adoption. It's a really great audience to share this input, and it's going to be really helpful to our project as well and for the blueprint report. Okay, we've got somebody that disclosed they're not in Virginia. So thank you for that. Using it for recruiting, that's great. Suggesting good fits. Free training. Okay, so some of what Henry shared and resources that are out there for free training and access to those and awareness of those is important. Best practices by industry and occupation. That will be great information to share. We will gather some of that as far as what other states are doing in our report, but we certainly won't be able to capture all of that. Training and upskilling. I'm not surprised. I see that multiple times here. Connecting business with experts in the field is a great start. Connecting training opportunities, that's a great exclamation point on this, so thank you for that. I saw one that said AI is the future, and so training's needed, I believe. Yeah. Training clearly is coming through loud and clear, but we'll digest these and really dig into them. All right, I think that's our last question. I think we're nearly at time. So Commissioner Overby, I'll yield back to you. And thank you everyone for participating in that survey and for the information you shared.
Thank you so much, Mike, and everyone. What a helpful and how fast you shared with us such helpful perspective via the very cool tool Mentimeter that we have the opportunity to use. So very helpful insights, really in particular, I think with that answer set of answers that you put forward at the end, I think just really shows us that hopefully we're a little bit on the right track with not only running webinars like this, but also part of the reason we're doing this is because you're going to see, I think, amongst all of us as partners, quite a bit more in this space coming up shortly, particularly in the vein of the training that you, I think, are really looking for. So there's going to be more in the AI space launching soon on behalf of the Commonwealth and all of our partners. So look for that soon. Very much appreciate the partnership with Grow with Google and the resources that they provide. I think there were quite a few questions in the chat, which Henry and our team have been going through answering. But we will send out some additional resources on this topic so that you are equipped with all the best places to go and look for options to help further your knowledge. If you have any questions following up on this beyond the resources that we're going to share via email, you can reach out anytime at info@virginiaworks.gov. And the other thing we would really ask for you to do is to take a few minutes to fill out this post-event survey. so that we can continue to target resources to you and run similar events like this in the future that are helpful. So thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to join us today. We're looking forward to our next webinar and the resources specifically on AI that will be coming between now and then. Keep an eye peeled also on LinkedIn to see lots of the things going on amongst Virginia Works and our partners. So thanks again. Thanks for spending an hour with us, and have a great rest of your week. Thanks, everyone.